Hello everyone and welcome to another Malts and Meeples. I am Petter and we're going to be getting back to the table for some more Pathfinder adventure card game. But before we get to that, as always, shout out the drink here. I have an old fashioned. And next Monday, so just to give a quick tease for what the upcoming stream is going to most likely be, I'm getting Stars of Akarios delivered tomorrow. So might do an unboxing on that game. It's kind of a dungeon crawl, space exploration campaign game. I've heard it compared to stuff like Gloomhaven, though it's dice driven. So very curious about this one. It's from OOMM Games, who also did Mythwind that I backed, and Stone Saga is going to be an upcoming game from them, which I'm really excited for. I know one of the designers on that game, so I don't really have any inside information more than they've kind of talked about already, but knowing the types of games that he plays, I think it's going to be fun. Let me do one thing here. Center myself a little bit more. Alright. Let's read a little bit of story and go over some of the rules for this scenario, because we are onto a new scenario. And before I do that, actually, let me talk about the upgrades that I did. So for Amiri, I decided to bump her wisdom stat because now that's a d6 plus 1, and for survival that's a d6 plus 3. Seoni, I went and added another blessing to her deck, so she's a bit more resilient. Haven't drawn up their hands yet, anything like that. Rebuilt the character decks from last time, have new locations, everything set up and ready to go. So let's check out this story here. At the request of Belhaim's Baroness, you've scouted the Blood Vow Kobold tribe for 3 days. A couple of times you've tempted a straggler with food or worthless baubles, questioned it, then let it run back to the kobold lair with warnings of retribution from the citizens of Belhaim. Tragically, the kobolds have thus far made no apparent effort to vacate the area. The Blood Vow are not a simple marauding band of kobolds. You figured out that they oscillate between two competing goals. The first goal is held firmly by Chief Rogaz, who reportedly worships the dragon Adaperix, a name that you hadn't expected to hear, as the legendary dragon was killed a millennia ago by Lady Tula Belhaim. You're no expert in kobold tongue, but as far as you can tell, they refer to the dragon in present tense. That is highly worrisome. Having made a vow to Adaperix, Rogaz and his cleric Churgi forced the kobolds to ally with the wizard Balthus Hunclay to destroy Belhaim's witch tower. Then the dragon demanded they lure the wizard into the explosion in a surprisingly well-crafted double cross. And that's right about where the kobolds' two goals diverge. The second goal is held by most of the kobolds, fearful of the townsfolk, whose wrath they've incurred. They are ready to hit the high road. Whatever this dragon is, it isn't doing the kobolds any favors. They have been replaced in his eyes by bat-like species called grioths, but Rogaz and his fellow believers that has his fellows believing that any misbehavior will result in the dragon returning and bathing them in his acid wash. That's quelled any rebellion for now. Kobolds being kobolds, they won't just lay out willy-nilly. They need leadership, and there might be an alternative to Rogaz. Somewhere in the caves, there's a captive named Nighttail. She was the leader of another tribe, the Dragon Swamp. Or the Swamp Dragons. Wow. Dragon Swamp. Swamp Dragons. Which recently extincted itself at the hands of some murderous gnomes. If you can free her, you could unseat Rogaz and the dragon worshippers with a minimum of bloodshed. Now, if only these ceilings weren't 4 feet high, you might have a chance at it. During the scenario, we need to feed a Kobold Storybane, summon and encounter an ally. If you acquire it, display it next to the scenario. Add 1d4 to diplomacy checks against kobold monsters for each of these displayed allies. Before you encounter the Kobold Champion, each character summons and encounters the Storybane Ancient Skeleton. So we have a couple of dangers. Kobold Horde and Poison Dart Trap. Though Kobold Horde I don't think will actually be in play. Just because I only have my 3 locations. We have a villain, Kobold Sorcerer, that is going to be Rogaz. And then we have our henchmen who are closing, which means they can close the location. Kobold Champion, Turgi of Vapala, and an Inferno Trap. All right. Let's get down to the table here. So I haven't picked my locations yet, but to quickly go over them. At the cave, if you fail a check to defeat a Bane, suffer the Scourge Dazed. Lair, the difficulty of to defeat Storybanes is increased by 2. Or Cell, you cannot move unless you either bury an ally or succeed a strength or disable 6 plus level, so 7 check. I think we're going to start out like so. Amiri is going to be the best for handling the 2 down here, whereas Seoni, not necessarily better, but we'll give her a shot at it. Let's drop the hands. Let's shuffle the decks. Looks like that's all 4 weapons. Ally, weapon, item. Token of remembrance. Which is useful for spells, not useful for Amiri, but I needed an additional item for her, which meant a random draw. All right. As is tradition, well, we flip the first one. On your stealth check, or a check that invokes poison trait, 1d4. Probably not going to happen here. Ooh. When you suffer combat damage, freely reveal to reduce it by 1. If proficient, do this to any damage. I'm not proficient in armor currently. Could have given myself that proficiency, but it's a Constitution Fortitude, or Constitution Fortitude, yeah, so D8 plus 1, well, that's only a 2. I'm not that worried about acquiring this one. We'll let it go away. I don't have any, well, could explore with my fox, but I'm going to hold off on it for now. On your check to close or guard, 1d4, not going to be useful. Well, I guess it could be useful. Not going to be useful. We have a Bogart. Knowledge perception. I have a knowledge. D8 plus 1. Yeah, we'll try it. Oh, it's 2 steps, so. Yep. Then we're going to cast Force Missile. So a D12 plus 2D4. It's 10. Oh, 10, 13, 15. 15. Let's see. Recharge it. Take out our first threat there. We'll end the turn, not do anything more. Okay, we have Soothing Word. I think I figured out healing. I spent a little time looking at it in between sessions here. And I think it is 1d4. Unless, of course, it specifies otherwise. So not too obvious there. Amiri, on your checks, will you avenge? Bless. I forget precisely what the keyword avenge is. I think that has to do if you're at the same location. Find the glossary. Encounter a Bane after another local character fails to defeat it. Typically after burying a card. So you can bury a card to avenge, unless there's something special you have, or there's a free avenge or something like that. We're not at the same location. Constitution Fortitude. 8. Magic Chain Shirt. That will go into my display. So if I suffer any damage, I can bury it to reduce to 0, or I can recharge it for combat damage to reduce by 3, which is pretty solid. Slide that over just so barely. So I theoretically have room. I'm not going to use the fox yet. On your check against a monster, add 1. Damage suffered from monsters is increased by 1. That's not ideal. And Seoni, of course, it's a monster. Combat check of 9. I do have a mace. It's vulnerable to attack. So I can do 1d8 plus a d4. Vulnerable, I think, means you add 4. You know what? I'm going to reveal my mace. I'm just going to try it off these 2 dice. So 5, 9. I defeated it by less than, well, I defeated it by the exact number, so less than 4 over, which means it shuffles back in. Then we'll go on to the next one. Ooh. Could have added a d4. Don't think I would have made a massive difference there. Or I could have enhanced on each check. The first blessing played to bless may be played freely. All right, Kobold Champion, special rules. First, I have to beat the Ancient Skeleton. Okay, I have a Glorious Warhammer. It is vulnerable to bludgeoning. I either have to recharge a Divine card, I can do that with this spell card here, or I would have suffered 1 combat damage, which actually I could have recharged to just avoid, but that's kind of dumb. So now we roll d8, d12 plus 3 to get to a 13 here. It's 12, 15 plus 4, 19. Very dead. And now, before acting, succeed an intelligence. D6 in that. It's a, perception. Don't have that. I keep on thinking I have perception, but it is survival. I don't have craft or disable. So, we're going to attempt our intelligence. D6, need a 5 or a 6. 4. Suffer 1d4 damage. I'm going to bury the magic chain shirt to reduce that to 0. Then reveal my Glorious Warhammer. So 1d8 plus a d12 plus, I mean, that is very 16 plus 3, 19 without any bonuses. Stick that up there. We've defeated that. Now we can try and close this with a strength or melee of 5. We're going to do a melee. Combat check, combat check. It's on edge. 5. 6 is what I have to beat because we're on chapter 1. So 6, this is a 5, but it is melee, so that's plus 2. The lair has been defeated. We'll move on over to the cells. Now, We advance again. If you discard a boon to bless a strength or constitution check, you may recharge it instead, which would have been great to have last time. But now we have the Boots of Friendly Terrain. So, on a local check at a wild location, or a local check to close or guard, recharge to add a D8. Oh, that's good. However, I mean, I could boost the dex to add 2 to it, which would still require me to roll an 8. I could discard to bless, so 2d6 plus 2, 7, 9. That is, the average roll on that is a 9, so 3.5 is the average on d6. Which means it's a little bit risky, but I think I'm going to risk it here because that just automatically comes back to me. So 2d6, 1, 7, 8, 9. So I hit the average right on the nose. I gain the Boots of Friendly Terrain. I'm not going to spend to encounter anything else this time. When you heal, you may heal an additional card. Well, Amiri has no cards out there to heal at this point. Ooh, before acting, each local character must succeed a Wisdom 5 or suffer the Scourge Frighten. This is why I bumped my Wisdom 4, 5. Excellent. If the hour's level is 0, after the encounter, each local character suffers 1d4 mental damage that may not be reduced. Okay, well, its hour is not 0. So the Eth-Hound is going to have a +3, 5, 7, or 8. That is 2 damage. Two damage getting suffered, and I do not defeat that Bane. That was a really bad roll. I'm not going to do anything else just because I'm down on cards. I like to have a little bit more out there to protect myself. Next up, we have Asmodeus's Tyranny. If you would fail a check, you may bury your hand and discards to reroll. That would have to be an amazing check for me to care about that. Dex, range, or stealth. Well, I got Dex of a D6. Definitely did not get that one. I'm not going to explore again. I feel like I rushed that previous times. On your check against an animal or elemental, add a D4. That's an obstacle and veteran. Intelligence, knowledge. Well, we have a 6 intelligence. That would be a 7 I need to get. That is just, I mean, it's going to add for sure. I have no perception. Oh, I have survival. I can get up to a 9. The perfect roll. That's an 8. So that one goes away. We shuffle a different one in, making us lost. And then I gain dazed. You may not examine locations. That's great. I have the compass. I cannot use it. All right. Next up, back at the caves. On your non-attack combat check, add 1. Inferno Trap, Dex, Acrobatics, or Perception. I have Dex, don't have Acrobatics or Perception. I do not have Craft or Disable. Each local character suffers 1 damage. Troubadour. If undefeated, each local character suffers 1d4. So I have the ability to get... What is the highest? I don't have Craft. I don't have Disable. Deflect doesn't work because that's combat damage. So I'll do Soothing Word to at least get those guys back in there. And Soothing Word will go at the bottom because it recharges. Because there is nothing I can do. Like my Dex is, 6. Don't have Craft, don't have Disable, don't have Perception, don't have Acrobatics. So 6 on a 9, fail. Come on, low. 3, huh? That sucked. Well, I don't have anything to do anything extra here. I don't know who's going to... I need to get some things out that can boost. If you discard a boon for Strength or Con, recharge it instead. Only does so much good. Wisdom or Divine. Well, my Wisdom has that +1 to it. I don't have Divine. It's only a 4, so I do not get it. That goes away. I can't explore again, even if I wanted to. When you discard a boon to bless a Dexterity or Charisma, you may recharge it instead. Constitution Fortitude check here of 6. I'd like to get it, actually. But I don't have the nice stuff anymore. I do want to explore. Spend that one to explore. Ooh, Wisdom or Divine. I have Diplomacy and Arcane, of course. So I have a Wisdom of a D6. There is no way to actually get that. Staff of Minor Healing. Just 1 card, but it's a recharge ability. There we go, Sarenrae's Light. I'll be able to heal somebody else, or if I want, I can instead use that to explore. Can't actually bless with it, which is what I'm kind of need at this point in time. The World Breaker. You may banish a random blessing from your discards to explore. Returning Throwing Axe. It gives me a melee option, so that's an 8. I don't feel the need to spend my guy yet here. When you acquire a boon, you may recharge a card. Well, we have the Rat Swarm again. I don't have a weapon to play. Can't heal. We're going to do the Elixir of Energy Resistance. Spend that to do an Arcane plus 2d4. So that's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which of course is one short of what I need. Oh, but it's vulnerable to attack, so it is gone. Blessing. Okay, we have a blessing that we can actually use to bless. That is going to be key. We're kind of blazing through it at this point. At the start of a turn, any character may recharge a card to move. Okay, good to know. I'm not going to move. Ooh. Oh, we should have one ally sitting up here. Recharge to move. You may not use this power during an encounter. Discard to explore. For your first exploration, well, my wisdom says I get it. However, it's also going straight to the discard. No, it's going to stick around. Compass is going to the discard because I'm dazed. So until I deal with that, oh, and then I think I got that last turn. Maybe it was 2 turns ago. Either way, I shuffle my hand into my deck. I get rid of Dazed. And I come back with the, I think, exact same hand. Which is possible, but not probable. Which you can't see, since it's hiding below the bottom of the screen here. But then, now I have to ask myself, do I want to use, I can't use the horse. I finished that turn to get rid of Dazed. Wow, wrong deck. That guy, I don't have to face ever. When you encounter a monster, you may evade it. Accursed Priest, immune to mental and poison. No more than one divine card may be played against this monster. After acting, local character buries a blessing. Oh, I'd have to bury Sarenrae's Light. So divine or combat. We are in a wild location. So I can recharge to add a D8. And stick that there to cast a spell. So it's a D12, D8, and 2D4. 13, 16, 18, 20. That is very, very, very destroyed. Then I have to bury a blessing. We'll do Torag's power, just because I know I have more coming up here. Though I think all of them have been used at this point. So I just have that one, but let's go over here. You may avenge by discarding a card, not particularly useful, but there we go, Kobold Sorcerer. So, to deal with this, to close this location, or guard it, so it doesn't have anywhere to run, I have to deal with the Poison Dart Trap. Dex, 2d6. Okay. discard, recharge, 2d6, 3d6 to get a 9. Five, 9, 10. All right, so this location is guarded. That means that the villain cannot flee to that location if I defeat him. Before acting, suffer 1 acid damage. All right, battle axe, go away. If the check to defeat does not have the attack trait and you succeed, re-roll. After acting, suffer 1 acid damage. Well, I definitely am going to attack with my glorious Warhammer. And melee. So I need to get a 12. That is 14, 17. Then I have another acid damage. He cannot escape. And well, that is guarded, so you cannot go there. If you defeat the villain, the main one, I do believe you still have to close locations. However, I can do a strength check here for 7. Got a 6. Recharge the soldier. 7, 8. That is closed. And then we get an ally here. And I add a sage. So now all we have to do, as I move up here, is close this top location. So let's work on that. Closing this top location here. When you encounter a card, you may draw a card. If you do, discard the top card of your deck. Wisdom Perception or Stealth Survival. Ugh. I can enhance my wisdom I will do that. Enhance my wisdom 5, 6, 7. And then we get a monster. And if I defeat this monster, which that enhance has been used, Force Missile with benefication to bless it. So I'm doing 7, 19, 20, 21, 23 to that. So both of those can go away. Of course, that still isn't enough for me actually to close this location. We're getting down to it though. Getting close. I'm going to recharge to heal Amiri for 1. And then keep drawing from the wrong stack. On check against an undead, when you discard a boon to bless, you may recharge it instead. Ooh, I need to learn a new keyword here. Freely. Freely. Doesn't count towards the limit on number. Like normally you can only get out 2 or 1 card of each type. However, in this case, that doesn't actually help me. So, you need to, actually I probably should look at this because it looks like I can play it to bless. So Dex, Acrobatics, Perception. I just have regular Dex. Don't have Acrobatics or Perception. That's for Strength Melee, or Knowledge check. It's not particularly useful. That means I'm just rolling Dex. Can't get it anymore. Undefeated. Each local character suffers 4 damage. Sucks. Alright, good news is I have all my blessings. And some armor. Bad news is Seoni will be unconscious after this next turn. No effect, by the way. Come on. Alright. So I can recharge to add a D8. Should have done that last time. So a D6 plus a D8 to get to 9, plus a blessing. So 2d6 plus a d8. Got it this time. So for 1 fire damage. Ooh. Technically I don't. Because this would go away for 1 fire damage. I trashed this one. So I just have 2d6. 6. 11. Okay. It has been defeated. However, now to close, I must summon and defeat the danger, which is again a 9. Which is in blessing. 5, 6. If undefeated, doesn't really matter because Seoni has been knocked out. Ew, that was rough for her. I was like, why did I face off against that before? I don't remember dealing with it, but that was because... So strength, survival, I have good strength. I have survival, that's a +3. 7. Now... danger time. Acrobatics, Dex, or disable. I only have Dex. I'm going to bury my chainmail. I mean, I'm just going to be trying to defeat this at this point in time. Strength and melee doesn't help. Strength and melee. None of those are going to help. Unless this one helps. Oh boy. Yeah. That is it. There is nothing I can do because benefication doesn't allow me to bless myself. It allows me to bless another character, though I do need to check. Well, I can't diplomacy my way out of a poison dart trap. So Amiri is going to be taken out. Let's get back up above the table here. And, well, that was interesting. I am not set up very well to deal with that poison dart trap. I feel like I probably should start there and see what I can do. I think having two characters fully loaded and ready to go for that, especially Seoni. Seoni should have been able to take care of that had she been set up correctly, because she had multiple things that help with guarding or closing a location. Granted, she had to use one of those to guard the location when I'd love to have kept that for, well, closing the location. Maybe I shouldn't have guarded it, sent the boss there. I still have to defeat the main villain no matter what, but it could have allowed me to close the other location and have both of them work together for the boss. That I think is one of the interesting parts of this game, is this whole cooperation between characters. Because Seoni and Amiri definitely, I mean, the two characters I think gives you a range of skills, a range that you can work with, but having a third or fourth character, I mean, just looking at the characters I could have, for example, Fumbus has a D10 on Dex, but has Disable and Ranged, as well as then a D8 on Con and Int. Ezrin, D12 on Intelligence. Another Fumbus. Interesting, there are two Fumbuses. Fumbi. Harsk. Harsk is a D10 on Strength, but also a D10 on Con. Kyra, D10 on Wisdom, but then a D8 on both Strength and Charisma. Lem, a D10 on Charisma, D8 on Dex and Con. Merciel, D12 on Dex. Like, she'd be the person to have for this, for traps. But of course I don't have that. Sela, D10 on Strength and D8 then on Charisma and Con. Valeros, D10 on Strength, D8 on Dex and Con. Interesting. Linny, D10 on Wisdom, D8 on Dex and Con. All the skills tied to Wisdom. Oh, that would explain where I'm missing some of the rest of the cards that I kind of expected to have. All at the bottom of this deck. So these were the other two decks of cards set up for other characters. But that's going to be it for today. Just want to thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoy this content, please subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment. If you want to know when I go live, click that notification bell when you subscribe. It should let you know when I go live. Generally, it's about 8:30 on Mondays and then 8 on Wednesdays, all times Central Time. Next week probably will be a little bit later, just because I record my podcast, Malts and Meeples, prior to streaming, and not Malts and Meeples, 10 Minute Marvel. Record my podcast 10 Minute Marvel prior to streaming, and next week I'm going to have both Miss Marvel, which I'm going to be watching soon here, and Thor Love and Thunder to talk about. So that might be a little bit of a longer episode, a little bit more to edit. But again, thank you so much for watching. There are some links down below, how you can help support this channel, as well as the other content that I do. With that, bottoms up.